Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil mursaleen, Sayyidina Mohamed, wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een, walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Your Excellencies, Ambassadors and Consul Generals, distinguished professors and scholars, graduates, parents, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We are living in a dark age. No, I do not mean load shedding, but the global absence of decency, of human enlightenment. With no less than 700 verses of the Holy Quran in 87 different forms, Allah Almighty enjoined humankind to exercise reason, to understand revelation, in which respect and such command Muslim jurists from the lifetime of our Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam, to a period of 250 years after his demise, formulated the doctrine of double truth, in that revelation is the master and reason is its servant. This doctrine of double truth served as a platform for the explosion of knowledge, recorded in the writings of students and professors of law, contained in their lectures, questions, answers, refutations, disputations. In law, philosophy, economy, and science, including medicine, astronomy, mathematics, and cosmology. And these volumes of several 100,000 were meticulously recorded and preserved in the libraries of Baghdad and Damascus for succeeding generations. And they are there for you to see, at least some of them, as a result of the bombings of Baghdad and Damascus, as we witness in recent times. On the other hand, technology, as the center of Western worldview of science, has led to a mechanistic and extractive mentality that is largely responsible for the exploitation and plundering of human and natural resources, wars of aggression, racist, white, colonial occupations, war crimes, ethnic cleansing, genocide, and climate change, and the geopolitical debris of injustices and global instability. This mechanistic view of the human being, wholly material in essence and of nature, is akin to a giant clock that can be deconstructed, wholly in parts and reassembled according to the whims and desires of the human intellect. It has created, most unfortunately, a Western mindset that silences God and replaces the divine and haughtily assumes that the human being is God. This embrace of the spiritual and moral ignorance is now almost complete, as we witness the events of these past few weeks. As Quran reminds us, وَكُنْتُمْ عَلَى شَفَا حُفْرَةٍ مِّنَ النَّارِ, and you, O mankind, were on the abyss of a fiery destruction. We need therefore to ask ourselves two questions. How did Western civilization get to where it is? where it actively participates without any moral compunction and human decency, the murder and genocide of millions of fellow human beings with the technology at its disposal. Secondly, why Muslim scholarship did not continue the stewardship of cultivating an ever-changing science of nature in partnership with the higher knowledge of revelation in an educational system, scientific tradition, arts and culture that produced a world of dynamic equilibrium, the mizan of nature, of mathematics, and of science, of the highest order for many centuries, but within a worldview imbued with the fragrance and grace of Allah Almighty, the cherisher, the sustainer, and the provider of the entire universe. The answers for this is greater than mere historical interest, and it is vital for the survival of mankind that we observe this evening or this afternoon exactly where we went wrong. And therefore, I would like to present to you a very brief illustration of the doctrine of double truth, which is revelation and reason. And you will note the four great scholars, Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, Imam Shafi, and Imam Abu Hanbal. And these jurists formulated the first platform of the doctrine of double truth and revelation based on the Quran and the Sunnah over a period of 200 years. And then we see that this particular doctrine was based on ilmul bayan, that is the pure text, unadulterated by the human mind. Ilmul irfan, knowledge of the unseen world, and ilmul burhan, that is knowledge of science based on reason. And that was the framework that gave the background for the explosion of knowledge. What I would like to say in modern times, the transmission of cognitive intelligence, not simply a translation. Who were these people that started this? You will see Al-Khwarizmi, the famous mathematician, Ibn Sina, Imam Ghazali, Ibn Rushd, Ibn Khaldun, Ibn Bajjah, and Ibn Arabi. These are among the few of the many hundreds of scholars that populated Darul Hikmah, that is the university, in the time when this knowledge moved forward. And we see that between 850 and 1250, for a period of 400 years, the doctrine of double truth was firmly established, and it gave impetus to the Golden Age. And from 632 to 1232, the doctrine of double truth evolved with the truth of revelation as the master and reason as its servant. The ancient knowledge of the Greeks was translated from Greek into Arabic and from Arabic into Latin for transmission to Europe, then known as the Dark Age, where only the Bible primarily governed and reason was absent. So basically the pattern was, as you can see on the screen, the doctrine of double truth, where revelation, pure revelation, and reason, ulul albab, is the tool to understand the revelation. Albab means, in its original root, the kernel of a thing. And what these scholars were doing was deep diving through the mechanics of ilmul irfan into the kernel of the meaning of the verses and the knowledge that emanated from it. They enjoyed it. They did not confine themselves to the shell of it and remain content with its ignorance. That is true scholarship. And this is what the doctrine of double truth was serving its purpose. But on the other hand, in the West, whilst on this side, with the great Islamic civilization, we had on the West the Bible, and of course, no reason, which effectively meant that the ecclesiastical functions and rules of the church governed at that time. But I would like to show you that at a particular period is Ibn Rushd influenced a very great, respectable scholar of the Catholic world, Sir Thomas Aquinas, very highly respected. He was highly influenced by Ibn Rushd. Scholars say that even the works of Ibn Rushd was at his bedside in the candlelight that he would study, and he produced his famous work called Summa Theologica. This particular work, he tried to harmonize eternal law, natural law, human law, and divine law. But here's the mistake, and here's the fundamental flaw. The Quran was supposed to be the source of pure revelation. He did not take the Quran. He adhered to the Bible. And the Bible is not pure revelation. It is half human and half God. It is adulterated by the human mind, unlike Ilmul Bayan, which is pure and unadulterated by the human mind. So when reason was applied, naturally the reason as an interrogative tool, interrogating the Bible itself, pointed out to glaring contradictions and inconsistencies, frustrating the church, leading to suppression of reason and science, with punishment and excommunication. The effect of that was that the age of rebellion started, and it followed against the Bible as revelation. This is objective facts of Europe. And that rebellion started with some equally scholars recognized, like Sir Francis Bacon, Descartes, Montesquieu, Savini, and these were mathematicians, scientists, philosophers, relying on reason alone. And essentially what they said is that what you cannot hear, what you cannot see, what you cannot taste or smell does not exist. That's a common logic of reason. But when reason is applied to something that is not pure, naturally inconsistencies and contradictions follow, and as a consequence of that, there was a rebellion. And reason soon broke away from the Bible as revelation. The attempted chain linking revelation to reason, even for a brief period, no longer held together. So this is exactly what we see in the Western world, that reason abandoned revelation, in that it abandoned morality, it abandoned justice, it abandoned equity, it abandoned transparency, it abandoned fairness, because there was no moral guidance of revelation to regulate the excesses of reason. But then, in this age also, as to this day, the doctrine of double truth does not exist in the secular West, where unguided reason stands supreme. There is no space for morals or spirituality, but institutionalized violence, political corruption, economic exploitation, social degeneration, racism, colonialism, ethnic cleansing, genocide, and apartheid. And all these have become the hallmarks under the cover of techno-civilization. And that's exactly the position geopolitically is what we are witnessing. However, corresponding to this period, Muslim scholarship started its own process of decline. Mongol invasion, destruction of schools, libraries, scholars, state interventions, impious debates amongst our own scholars closed the door to ilmul bayan, ilmul irfan, and ilmul burhan, leading to strangeness and hostility of each branch to the other. So there's our chain. Our chain is also broken for a different reason. We stuck to revelation, but we abandoned reason. Western civilization abandoned revelation, relying on unguided reason alone. Muslim civilization adhered to pure revelation, but abandoned reason to understand the revelation. The resultant Muslim, at least Western society, is a techno-society without morals to underpin it, leading to the global imbalance, chaos, and exploitation that prevails today. Muslim society, on the other hand, continues to uphold its moral values without the technological power to sustain and protect it, resulting in political disarray, intellectual stagnation, economic exploitation, division, and discord. So Muslim civilization's future lies in reattaching its broken chain within the prism of the doctrine of pure revelation and reason by ecologically connecting ilmul bayan, ilmul irfan, and ilmul burhan through the holistic and multidisciplinary methodology of the maqasid of the Sharia. That is the key to reconnect the broken chain. With that reconnection, what you see on the screen is now the mizan. Property, religion, life, intellect, lineage, all is harmoniously balanced. What you do in the mosque is Allah's business, and what we do outside is also Allah's business. Everything we do is Allah's business. This is the mizan that is the greatest single challenge ecologically for the Muslim scholars of today. With global corruption, ethnic cleansing and genocide, abuse of nature, mountains of thrash, garbage in rivers, oceans, and in the sky above, Western values have brought mankind, as I've said earlier, in the abyss of a fiery destruction. There is simply no turning back. What is it about this society that we should emulate? Social scientists amongst themselves are seeking an ecological approach, jurisprudence and science to bring about an equilibrium to restore a balance that is the mizan between faith and science. And they have today, and when I say today, this morning, yesterday, a day before, they have listed the environment, the society, and governance, which they call ESG, as the three topmost global priorities and challenges. To this, we have our answer. To the environment, we have the Khilafah, the stewardship of nature. Allah Almighty has enjoined the human being responsibility of nature. To society, we have the Ummah and the brotherhood of mankind, transcontinental, trans-territorial. And to governance, we have the Shura and the rule of law. In their version, revelation is absent, and in our version, revelation and reason are attached together to fulfill the human being's earthly responsibility before his return. Allah Almighty says, "Inna dina indallahi al-Islam." So this in turn brings the presentation to a conclusion, and in my concluding remarks, I state the following, that in congratulating the graduates, parents and lecturers, remember that every fundamental eschatological question of the relationship between human beings and between them and nature with Allah Almighty had been dealt with by these great scholars that we had alluded to earlier. Notwithstanding the great strides in technological advancements, none of these fundamentals have been disturbed or destroyed. By deep diving into the Maqasid methodology adopted by IPSA, you as graduates can quantum leap the huge gap that stagnant Muslim scholarship has created, and to catch up, as it were, a moving target of ever new knowledge that cutting-edge artificial intelligence produces. Scientists and CEOs of global companies predict that almost 50% of present careers will be replaced by artificial intelligence by 2025. That's around the corner. In effect, by the time most of you graduate, your further careers, the careers that you might wish to seek, will become obsolete. Whilst this may sound overdramatic, we must take comfort in the knowledge that the Quran, as pure revelation, is an eternal, peerless, and perfect guide for all of mankind. All knowledge is the lost property of the believer. And instead of fearing artificial intelligence as a replacement for human intelligence, we should use it as augmented intelligence. And through the doctrine of double truth, use the pure revelation with your augmented intelligence to transmit cognitive intelligence. That, to me, is the greatest single challenge for Muslim scholarship. And do what Al-Khwarizmi did with the numerals, and who inspired the zero on which artificial intelligence depends. As algebra was a quantum leap from geometry, inspired from a Quranic verse, the last verse of Surah Jinn, وَأَحْصَوْا كُلَّ شَيْءٍ عَدَدًا. Allah Almighty says, I have enumerated my creation in numbers. And that's where the zero inspired Al-Khwarizmi, which inspired algebra, which inspired the technological advancements. And now from the candle and the horse cart, we have moved to power stations and space stations. All of this was rendered possible because of the zero. Therefore, we must adopt the Maqasid approach, the pearls of new knowledge buried deep in Ilmul Bayan and Ilmul Irfan, to understand through Ilmul Burhan the secrets of our existence at all times, in awe of Allah's glory and power, and at the same time humble before Allah's glorious throne in the knowledge that the highest knowledge is the knowledge that we have no knowledge. All knowledge of the seen and the unseen belongs to Allah Almighty alone. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.